do this. Good morning, everyone. And thank you all for joining us this morning. And anyone that doesn't know me, I'm Judy Trotter, Head of Adult Education and Learning at JW3. And we are joined this morning by Ruth Calderon. So pleased that you were able to join us, Ruth. Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us. So I'm going to change the routine this morning. So Ruth, I'm going to introduce you first. Ruth is an Israeli, an academic and an educator. She co-established ELUL, the first Beit Midrash in which secular and religious women and men studied and taught together. And I remember visiting many years ago and being absolutely blown away by the idea and thinking we have to have this in London. Still working on that. And in 1996, she founded Alma in Tel Aviv, a Jewish liberal art program of Hebrew culture for advanced learning. And I'm delighted to say that JW3 will be partnering with Alma in some events, and thank Nimrod for doing the kesher between us. Nimrod was our, forgotten the word, but worked with us for a year, or I think it was a few years ago, and is now working at Alma. So thank you, Nimrod. From 2013 to 2015, Ruth was a Knesset member from Yesh Atid, where she was the deputy speaker, among other things. And many of us remember that period and how thrilled we were that you were involved at that time. It was around that time, it was much earlier, that actually Ruth came to Limud, which of course is very much on our mind at the moment because we've just had the annual, I still call it conference, but it is now called festival. So I nearly said it the first time this time, so I'm working towards it. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. Ruth requested it's a little bit more of a conversation than just asking her to speak. And for that reason, I may bring some of you on screen in a way I don't normally. But I'm going to start in my usual way. From October the 7th, now 12 weeks, we have felt the need to be together and to come together at JW3 with the many events we've put on, but also to connect with Israel, which is where the idea of this briefing came from. So Ruth, it's not an easy task, I know, and which is why we're always grateful, those who agree to join us. What's uppermost on your mind this morning? What would you like to share with us? And thank you.
Thank you, Judy. First of all, I want to thank you and everyone that woke up and joined us this morning for the opportunity to be together and to connect. On a feminist note, I want to say that I have a PhD in Talmud, and I think we should refer to women as Dr. Calderon when we introduce them. That's a small note. But yes, it is very sad and very challenging time for us in Israel and for all of us all over the world. And before I get into it, I just want to say that the connection with you, the possibility to speak to you, to share and to hear you makes a very big difference. And everybody from our friends and family in the world that connected and wrote even a few words, it makes a big difference. So what's on my mind? I want to share that at the same time that we are going through, I think, the most difficult days of Zionism and life in Israel since the state was founded, at the same time, it is days of glory in many ways. Mostly what I feel is in the civil society, the way you see and meet thousands and thousands and everyone volunteering and doing whatever anyone can to help whoever is in need, to help the people that had to leave their homes, to help the victims of the violence, the terrible violence of October 7th, and to help the soldiers and to help the farmers that were left without workers. So everyone, the barber here in my community is going twice a week to groom the soldiers where they are in their bases. He's wearing this light, around his head and cuts their hair. Very good friend of mine, professor of Hebrew University, was down giving food yesterday in Zikim. There's a huge kind of space where everybody comes in. The Voladin, the cake and cookie company, is giving cake, and there's meat and there's food, and everybody is going out of their way and their minds to try to take part and help. And that is something new, because in the last 50 years, when Israel has become kind of on track, everybody got to living their own life and in their families and doing what we can to have a good life and to work in our whatever profession and career. And suddenly, because of what is happening, there's an awakening and a very warm feeling of togetherness. When we go to the square of the families of the hostages at Alma, we go there on Fridays, and Saturday night there's a very big kind of gathering again of thousands of people, and we all wear this I don't know if you have it in London, it says our heart is kept in Gaza. And there's a feeling of belonging, of holding the flag and of being together, and that's very big. At the same time, on the painful side, I think the most dangerous, painful, hard point of what happened to all of us in October was that the home, the Jewish home, the private home and the national home, was broken. And this basic agreement between a citizen and its country, that we will give taxes and we will go to the army, but the country will take care of our home and family, that was wounded. And it is wounded again on the private scale. Parents are afraid about their children. Husbands feel they couldn't protect their families, or mothers and children are afraid. But on a bigger scale, even the agreement between Israel and the diaspora that we are the safe haven, that was also broken. And if that is not what we are, then there needs to be a reevaluation of what we're doing here, what we're all doing together. And that is very hard. I think many people are traumatized and in fear and in worry and have trouble to sleep. And the whole thing will take a very long time. I have good friends in the psychoanalytic and psychology field, and they were all there with the kibbutzim and the people that were saved out of the Gaza border, and there will be need of years and years of therapy, because in some ways the whole country is now traumatized. And again, the two things are happening simultaneously. We are sad, like there's a sadness. The season is always also dark, and at the same time there's an awakening and a spirit of this is home, and we'll do anything we can to bring it back to, even not to what it was, but to something better. So I'm just putting a foot, like I'm stopping now, Judy, to let you ask again, but of course I can go on for hours, but we only have half an hour.
Thank you, Ruth. That was so beautifully put. And I think we all relate to what we feel here, except there is less that we can do, which is why sometimes you find people running around trying to be on social media. How have you found, I'm sorry I didn't say I was going to say this, but how have you found social media affecting Alma, yourself, and Israel? Because it's gone both ways for us. It's been very useful and helpful to connect, and of course with the people we know that we can connect with directly. But it's also gone off on so many tangents and so much fake, silly news that people have picked up on because they want to feel they're doing something. How has that been for you?
Personally, I cut myself off social media because of you're bombarded with so much information. Some of it is false, and some of it is pornography that should not be out there. And I think we should protect our souls. We should not see everything and not even know every detail of how they were tortured before they were raped, before they were killed. I don't want to know it. I don't think that is what and we are attracted to it because, our psychology is trying to go back to it and heal it. But I don't think that's a good place to go. On the other hand, of course, it is part of the war, and we need to be very clear in explaining ourselves, in explaining that Black Lives Matter of America is not the same issue of Palestinians and Israelis here, that it is not we're not killing a nation, that there were 600,000 Palestinians and now there are 2 million, and that we are not colonializing, we are trying to live our life and stay here. We're not coming from some other place to take the riches of Africa. But there's a lot of pain on both sides the truth needs to be told. So I would rather use somehow maybe television more than social media. WhatsApp is what Israelis use, and so you are in your groups to try to control what comes in, and of course control what you put out. I tended to be more quiet for the first month, and just even take this trauma and wait. For me it's together with the fact that it's a war, it's a cultural war, both inside Israel and outside in the world, and that will take time, and we need to be smart more than quick.
So we've just had a question in, which I'll go to straight away because it follows on very nicely from that. Looking towards the future and hopefully when we very fast rather than very slow, how can you see the addressing how we live with a much angrier, furious neighbours? And I guess that's us as well, that as you say, the trauma that will need to be dealt with and the anger, and yet still needing to be positive and going forward and creating a future that's good.
I'll give you my vision of what I think should be done, and maybe because we are in the midst of a war and in some ways a world war. There's Russia and China and the United States and Turkey and everyone, Egypt and Saudi Arabia, and everybody's in the business. So my vision is that, like after big world wars, there's an opportunity to look together with all these powers and with the Palestinians to look at the Middle East and make a new solution of geography, so everybody will have the opportunity to live peacefully and in good faith, and not build terror minharot under like an underworld of war, and instead build a good life for all of us. I think there should be 2 states, and I think there is a challenge. I think there is a very strong voice of Palestinians in Israel, in Gaza, and in the world that want us out and want to take over the whole country. And my answer is, with all due respect, we have nowhere else to go. My mom came from Germany. My father came from Bulgaria. We don't have another place. This is our home, and we tend to stay. But our staying here does not have to come together with pain of another people. And I think there is a solution. We have half an hour, so I'm not sure we'll get to the full solution here, but I think that is what we have to do outside. Inside, between Israelis and ourselves, there is a cultural war that went on before October and will go on after. And I think you have a role in this, between liberal Judaism in Israel and Messianic extreme, I don't even have exactly the word, of Judaism that is very violent And we need your voices to help us help liberal movements in Israel and help secular Israelis for you to be aware that we are another stream of Judaism, and that we are connected to our heritage, and we are building the present towards the future, and we need to all, the whole Jewish world, to be together to build a pluralistic, liberal, open, humanistic, people-loving Jewish state here.
So, of course, part of what you do at Alma is part of that story. So let's bring us back to Alma and October the 9th, that Monday after the horrendous weekend. How did Alma, and how did you cope with that first period, and then how's it been for the last 3 months?
Alma is a home for Hebrew culture, a liberal arts program that is happening in the center of Tel Aviv. We have about 100 students every week, and we have about another 1,000 students a month that come to less than the full program. We are not academics, so we do not give academic points, or it's a much more Beit Midrash method of study. So we opened Alma on time in October, and all our students, except for one that is in Miluim, and we send classes to him, and we work with him personally. By now he came back. All the students were in classes, and I feel that being in a community, a study community, in a thinking community together in Tel Aviv, and in the mornings, the kibbutz Karmia and kibbutz, the people that had to leave their homes in Gaza and they're staying in hotels in Tel Aviv are coming to study in the morning. So we are so happy to have them and to connect them to Jewish and Israeli and general culture. And they are very happy to come out of just thinking, about trouble, and being in the calm and depth of study, and they are receiving in a very, very loving way. On Fridays, we do Kabbalot Shabbat in the square of the families that are waiting for their captive people in Gaza. And we do some study there too. And each of us does their volunteer work. Some pick up tomatoes and avocados and mushrooms and whatever needs to be picked up. Some of us gather clothes and clean clothes. We had people stay here in apartments that were given to them when they needed places. The whole country is like very much on our toes to try to make a difference. At Alma, I feel we also fight the challenge of the Israeli public schools, the schools that are Jewish but not religious, that need a vision, that need a calling, that need to be clear about their Jewish identity. And because in our country only Orthodox identity is funded, I had a lot of work in fundraising in these last months to keep us alive, because this government did not support us anymore. We had support from the last government that was more central, but that was cut when this government came on board. So I do fundraising, and most of it I do outside of Israel, because again, in Israel, this challenge of Jewish identity still needs a lot of work.
Yes, that is for sure. So I'm going a little bit more, and at the end, I'm going to just let you explain a little bit more about Alma rather than here. Let's look at education. So you mentioned the split between the schools, and someone's asked whether this is actually an implacable obstacle to the future unity. Now, I can't believe that anything is that we have to be able to get over all obstacles. But this split between the religious and secular, you've already said, is difficult.
Is a very big challenge, and it's a deep challenge that is not only because they do something to us, but because we used to be a majority, I'm not sure today, of non-affiliated Israeli Jews need to work on our identity. And when we will be solid and clear about the fact that we are Jews and the fact that our Jewishness is valid and authentic and just as important and part of the big scheme of all Jewish identities, when we will be clear about ourselves, I believe the dialogue between us and other Jews will work better. Having said that, they're not very easy to have a dialogue with, because there's a lot of superior, like they look down to us. They do not see that our marriages, our conversion, our study of Torah and so forth is as valid, as authentic as theirs. And that's a long way of whether it's going to be a cultural war or a real civil war, God forbid, or a very long educational journey in which we are inferior because the country supports only one side of Jewish culture. And that is the challenge that Alma is facing for the last 28 years.
So do you see this as an opportunity, that this is a good time to be able to affect changes and bring yourself into that conversation more, and to reclaim the Jewishness of what else is going on outside of the fundamental and the Haredi?
It's a terrible opportunity. We wouldn't choose it, chas
No.
v'chalila, in any way, but it is a big opportunity, as you said, because every crisis has an opportunity within it, and the opportunity is to free Judaism from politics in Israel. The connection between the beauty and the depth and the richness of Judaism and the power of politics, this connection is doing us so much damage. And in our side of the non-Orthodox world, makes people go away and, not want to have anything to do with their Jewish identity. And I believe that if and when we'll be able to disconnect politics from Judaism and keep this a Jewish state, keep Israel speaking Hebrew and celebrating the Jewish calendar and having Jewish education in schools, not only in private schools, and celebrating the seasons and, the time as we do in our history, but not making it the ownership of only one way that is becoming these days so kitzoni. I'm afraid of not finding so extreme. Thank you.
Thank you.
If we'll be able to keep our kind of sound connection to where we come from, but open it to politics that gives many different options, I think that is the way to go.
Okay, so let's open it out a little bit further than Israel now. I have two questions. One, I'm sure you're aware that Jewish schools and Jewish education has risen vastly in the UK over the last 20 years or so. Are you aware at all of that changing the relationship between young Jews in England and in Israel?
I have family in London, the Margulis family, so I know a little bit, and we have the privilege of having primary school in London that is called Alma.
Absolutely.
And that is connected to Alma because the founder has visited Alma and founded a small cousin of ours in London, and both Nimrod and I visited and were so moved by the beautiful education that they do. What I feel, I don't know enough, I haven't been in London for a while, But what I feel is that anti-Semitism in the world is pushing us back to strong Jewish education. And I hope it's not only that, but, you know, I was speaking to a very talented movie maker, Ori Elon. He made Shtisel, that I'm sure you watched in England too, on Netflix. And he now wrote a new series about Herzl. And it doesn't have all the funding he needs. He's still working on it. But it begins when Herzl is in Germany and then in Paris, and he feels anti-Semitism, and then he writes Alt Neuland and the vision of a Jewish state. And he said to me, I didn't think anyone in the world will be convinced we forgot what anti-Semitism was. And then came October, and we sadly remember it again. I am so glad there is good Jewish education in the world and in England. I would hope us to be more connected, so the children in these schools will know and have a chance to meet Israel not only as a kind of a romantic Zionist concept or only a safe haven for trouble, but a living cultural total environment of being Jewish, both in the religious sense, but also in the fiction, writing, theater, music, art, ecology, feminism, any part of life that Israel has a Jewish lens of it that could be relevant for young English Jews.
So I'm that absolutely, and we hope. And just to finish on a slightly more, slightly sideways view, someone's written that the moment in what we're aware of also here is the way Israel's being treated and discussed and looked at outside, and I'm sure that's affecting everyone in Israel as well. But can it be on an Israeli's mind what the rest of the world's thinking when you're in the middle and dealing with such a on the spot situation? I mean, you know, we all have these apps where we can see also when the rocket sirens are going off and when there's an infiltration and what else is happening.
It's not only that, Judy, it's a weakness of ours. Israelis are very kind of closed within what we see and what we know in Hebrew, and doing the step outside of, you know, I'm sure that it's the same for you to read a paper in Hebrew. For us to read the paper in English or to watch news in English is an effort that we are lazy and we don't do enough. And also it's frightening to see the way we are portrayed while we are also trying to, you know, keep the children not thinking about the fact that you go down, up and down to the shelter. We are on the 4th floor. It's a lot of stairs, and make it, you know, I always bring a toy or balloons for my children are mature, but the kids in my entrance, for them not to be, you know, to have a good experience and not a frightening one. So we are not good enough in understanding what you are watching. We don't see it. And sometimes we do need a friend like you to say, hey, did you know that this is what they say today? And to be able to help you answer it. Because I remember when I was in the Knesset, there was one day that something was done with a Turkish ambassador, not in a polite way. And I said to my colleagues, do you know how the Jewish school in Istanbul is going to pay for what we are doing here now? And we should understand that we are all in the same boat together. So this is something Israelis do need a reminder. And things like this morning are very helpful, because seeing your faces is like nothing else. You know, it's not like a memo, pay attention to English Jews. It's seeing faces. It's the most strongest effect of any.
Thank you so much, Ruth, and that beautifully brings us to 9:30. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say thank you and finish formally. But Nimrod does have, I hope, a little film. Yes, did you find it, Nimrod? Just nod if you did.
Very short video
Because I've had
to
a
show
few
you what
questions
Alma looks like. If
in
you
the chat about Alma. So please feel free to stay and watch that, but also feel free to go once I have said. Ruth, thank you so much. That
thank
was
you very much. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
really
I'm also going
amazing.
to cook now, so
I hope
so
you will
nice to
be,
see you.
I hope you'll come to London as soon as you are able after this, and
When
that
it's warmer.
we will welcome you at JW3 in the same way we did in Worcester in the 1990s, and that you'll come and do a session in person for us. For those of you that coming next week, it will be Daniel Taub, who did our very first one and is going to start 2024 for us. And the following week will be Jeremy Lee. Term starts on the 8th of January. I look forward to seeing those of you who can come into the building or on Zoom. And again, thank you so much, Ruth. We wish you a very peaceful Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom to all.
On the chat,
Nimrod,
you can
may
see
now.
the video. And thank you very much. Thank you, Nimrod, for connecting us. You're the
Absolutely.
Shadchan. You deserve
Thank you.
pajamas.
It's a real pleasure, and thank you, everybody.
Toda. Shabbat
Right,
shalom.
Nimrod, you should be able to share your screen now.
Oh, I sent the link on the
Oh,
chat.
you sent it. Oh, there you did.
Yeah.
Sorry. You sent the link to everyone, but I'll
Could
play
you just
us
put it on?
out. Hold on one second. Oh, I've got to get back to Zoom. Screen.
Thank you. Oh,
There we go.
it's to, no, it needs to play.
Hold on, I need to close things down. I can't see.
We should be better at this. Nimrod, do you know where the video is?
Oh, it was playing and now it's gone. Let me. Why is that?
Maybe push the link again.
Yeah, I'll try that again. Sorry, sometimes these things go very easily. There we go. Let's try.
Such a miracle, Zoom. It's a black screen and suddenly there's so many people.
Right, so it's playing for me. Let's see if it still does. I'm going to share screen, which is why it stopped last time.
Oh,
See, it was doing it very nicely.
Nimrod, do you know which how the movie?
Yeah, for some reason the link didn't work, but maybe I can.
Okay, so what I'll do is
we'll send it as a.
We'll send the link round to everyone. It'll be easier.
Thank you, and say hi to Daniel
Shalom
next week.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Bye,
Take
Shabbat
care,
shalom.
everyone.